Hi, I'm Sean McElligott from the Mayo Clinic Division of Engineering. Many thanks to ASME for organizing the AM Medical Summit and allowing me to present. Thank you also to all of you who are watching this online. I'll talk about the application of additive manufacturing within the walls of Mayo Clinic. First, let me give you a little background on the Mayo Clinic Division of Engineering. The late 19th century and early 20th century was a time of rapid development in medicine. This led to an explosion in the development of new surgical tools. Early surgical tools were crude. They looked like they came from a hardware store. The devices here were all developed by Mayo Clinic brothers and their colleagues. The Division of Engineering grew out of the rapid proliferation of surgical tools. The Mayo brothers saw that they needed to develop their surgical tools. They needed help with that. The first instrument shop was formed in Mayo in 1915. Here we see a photo from 1920 showing bone screws made using beef bone and a lathe in the machine shop. These bone screws were used in the repair of femur fractures. In 1948, the instrument shop was reformed as the Division of Engineering. One of the new division's first projects led to the Mayo Gibbon heart-lung machine. It's hard to believe that until 1955, bypass surgery didn't exist. The G-suit was developed at Mayo in the 1940s by a team led by Dr. Earl Wood. Early patient monitoring was developed by the Division of Engineering prior to the establishment of commercial patient monitoring companies. Also, in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Division of Engineering assisted with the development and research on the first high-speed scanner, the Dynamic Spatial Reconstructor, which was installed at Mayo in 1975. You can read the our formal mission statement here. In my words, the Division of Engineering builds one-of-a-kind medical devices and laboratory instruments for Mayo Clinic doctors and researchers. We live in the space in between what doctors and researchers can make themselves and what they can buy commercially. Our work has included early telemedicine systems, extensive computational modeling of physiology, transformational surgical instruments, such as this device, which allows mitral valve repair on a beating heart. Emergency designs, such as these clips that were added to a commercial dialysis tubing set in response to a sentinel event. Neurological devices, and a prototype artificial liver, which has sustained life in animal trials for 48 hours. To achieve our mission of medical device development, we employ a quality management system, professional project management, collaboration with our proponents throughout the project lifecycle, and support for prototypes, verification, validation, and limited manufacturing in our full machine shop. Our staff of 67 includes project managers, technicians, designers, machinists, and a scientific glassblower across the disciplines of electrical, mechanical, software, biomedical, and chemical engineering. Given that background, let's talk about additive manufacturing. Our first major use of 3D printing technology in the Division of Engineering was for the surgical planning of a conjoined twin separation surgery in 2006. We worked closely with Dr. Christopher Moyer, Dr. Jane Matsumoto, and the Biomedical Imaging Resource Core Lab to create a 3D printed model of the twins' conjoined liver. That would be this one here. Due to the amorphous shape of the liver and complex biliary system, the physical model proved invaluable during surgical planning by allowing the surgeons to touch and feel the actual anatomy. Shortly after the first surgery using 3D models, another pair of twins required similar separation surgery in 2007. In this case, the twins had significant fusion of the anterior chest wall. A model of the chest wall was made and then separated by a DOE machinist as instructed by the surgeons. This gave the surgeons a replica of what they could face in the actual operation. The model in the center of the picture was painted by the medical illustration unit to enhance the rib structure. Around the same time that we were working on surgical planning models for the conjoined twins, we were asked to create custom TMJ prostheses for a clinical study by Dr. Eugene Keller. We took CT scan data and 3D printed models of the TMJ anatomy. Dr. Keller performed the surgery that he wanted on the models and created an implant that he wanted made out of dental wax. We laser scanned the wax model and then machined the implant out of cobalt chrome molybdenum steel. Here you can see the implant back in the model as it will be in the patient. The work extended from 2006 to 2009, and we machined over 100 patient-specific implants. Sorry about that. The project inspired us to purchase anatomical modeling software in 2006 and our first 3D printer, the Dimension Elite, in 2007. Here's an image of the Dimension Elite. It was a real workhorse printer. It was a 3D, our first 3D printer. It was bulletproof. It did exactly what we wanted. We only ran ABS in it, and it had non-soluble support, so it was a little bit difficult to clean, but it lasted us well. Based on our success with the conjoined twins, we partnered with the Department of Radiology to create anatomical models for surgical planning. Due to the high level of effort required to segment CT data into 3D models and the quickly increasing demand, the Department of Radiology formed the Anatomic Modeling Laboratory in 2013. These models look primitive compared to what the Anatomical Modeling Lab does today, but at the time they were infinitely better for the surgeons than no models at all. And if you get an opportunity to watch a presentation by anybody in the Mayo Clinic Department of Radiology Anatomical and Modeling Lab about the work they do, it's truly amazing at this point. We supported that work from 2008 through 2015, when full responsibility was handed off to the Department of Radiology. With the successful use of the Dimension Elite, we purchased an Objet Connex 350 PolyJet machine. It was ideally suited for pre-surgical planning models and show and tell prototypes, but did not provide the material properties needed for functional prototypes and end-use parts. When it reached end of life, we did not upgrade to a newer model. It was pretty cool to be able to print parts within a volume of clear material. This pediatric hand model really helped the surgeon visualize what needed to be done for reconstruction. Having moved away from anatomical modeling, we now use our additive manufacturing capabilities exclusively for prototypes, concept prototypes, functional prototypes, non-medical products for research laboratories and facilities, and for medical devices. We have 5 polymer printers, soon to be 6, using fused filament fabrication, stereolithography, and HP's powder fusion technology. We also have a metal selective laser melting printer. The Fortis was a logical step when we started to outgrow the Dimension Elite. We crossed from the prototyping realm into a machine with industrial quality. While other materials are available, we have mostly used it with polycarbonate. Here's an example from the Fortis. Orthopedic surgeons needed a custom head frame for applying traction during spine surgery. Engineers refined their design using several 3D printed prototypes before machining the final head frame. When our Dimension Elite reached end of life, we replaced it with a Stratasys F370. We've been extremely happy with it. It's easy to use and easy to change materials. We do not use thermoplastic polyurethane very often, but it is very nice to have. In 2016, we purchased a Mark I from Mark Forged, and in 2017, we upgraded it to a Mark II. The Mark II is a fused filament fabrication machine with nylon filament layers alternating with layers of continuous reinforcement filaments of glass, Kevlar, or carbon. We only use the Mark II occasionally. One of the marketing claims is that you can 3D print parts instead of having them machined. That doesn't really apply to us since we have our own machine shop. We use it when we need strong parts that cannot be machined. For example, if they cannot be conductive. This is one version of the arc of the prototype head frame you saw earlier. The previous picture of the final prototype had a glass reinforced arc. This one is carbon reinforced. Another example will come up soon. The retainer clip for a label cutter was made on the Mark II. We purchased the HP multi-jet fusion machine in 2019. Nylon 12 is a true engineering material. The process provides isotropic material properties, and unlike fused filament process, there isn't any bulk porosity, so the parts are watertight. Unfortunately, there is surface porosity, which makes it unlikely we would be able to pass a cleaning and sterilization validation to make reusable medical products. Here's an excellent use of the HP multi-jet fusion machine. During the height of COVID, hoods for powered air purifying respirators, PAPRs, were in short supply and on back order. Mayo had 450 obsolete Bullard hoods in inventory, but we no longer had the PAPR blower units that fit them. We were asked to design a new connector to enable the hoods to work with the 3M VersaFlow blower units on hand. We designed the adapter and 3D printed it. With a little tweaking, it was ready to go. We printed all the needed connectors on the HP and made the obsolete PAPR hoods usable. In 2020, we purchased a Form 3B printer from Formlabs. It's becoming a real workhorse for us. It has sterilizable medical resins that have shown biocompatibility in other applications. You get in trouble for calling things biocompatible materials, but the materials have been demonstrated to be biocompatible, so we anticipate that they will be biocompatible for products that we use and test in the future. It has high resolution with 25 micron slice thickness. The parts are non-porous, so they're watertight. It has faster builds than many of our other printers, and the ability to prototype titanium parts before we build them. It uses the same, or we can use the same software for the build preparation for the Form 3B that we do for our titanium printers, so things will transfer very readily. We'll talk in a minute about the titanium plate in the picture. The mandible was printed from a model provided by the Anatomical Modeling Laboratory in the Department of Radiology to show the fit of the titanium plate. And this is actually a model that they've used clinically. Not our model. They've used the same, they've used the STL file for models clinically internal to them. Getting away from the particular printers, here's an end-to-end prototyping and development project. A GI tube or gastronomy tube is a feeding tube connected directly to the stomach. Mayo doctors think a continuous gentle retaining force will reduce gastronomy tube complications. Engineers printed prototypes, so started with a CAD model, printed this. This was actually printed on our Objet back when we had it. Nowadays, we would print it in thermoplastic polyurethane on our F370. It was then, we printed a mold on the Fortis in order to cast a silicone part, silicone rubber example before going to an outside injection molding house for parts for a clinical study. In this slide, you can see the part in testing on a piece of synthetic tissue connected to the tube. This is actually one of my favorite 3D printing examples. It's a label removal tool. The Mayo laboratories, Mayo has a tremendous laboratory, commercial laboratory. The laboratories needed to remove sections of blood vial label to support a $150 million grant. Some of the vials come in with labels covering the complete circumference of the vial. When you're getting 6,000 vials in a day, even a small percentage turns into a large number. This interferes with the first step of testing, optical analysis of blood components after centrifuging. An engineer combined a scrapbooking paper cutter, so that's the scrapbooking paper cutter here, with 3D printed parts in order to quickly deliver a solution. The main components were printed on the Fortis with the tube retaining clip, this part right here, being printed on the Mark II. Kevlar reinforced nylon was used to tune the snap force for retaining the tube. All told, the lab had their solution in a week from their request. In January 2020, we moved into our new additive manufacturing facility. Here's the architect's rendering of the facility. It's a 1,600 square foot dedicated space in the Baldwin building basement, which is a community medicine building. So people ask whether we're doing our 3D printing in the hospital. The answer is not exactly, but it is a clinical building. Our new facility has rooms for the metal printer and separate room for polymer printers, for post-processing, an office and inspection area, and a storage area. We moved into it in January 2020, and we're already working to expand for separate space to house our polymer powder printing, the HP printer, and any future powder printers we might purchase. Due to a generous grant from the Granger Foundation, we were able to purchase the EOS M290 metal printer, which was also installed in January of 2020. Here are some examples of parts that we had printed outside, but would have printed ourselves if we had a metal printer at the time. This is the facet joint replacement product. A team of engineers from the Division of Engineering worked with Dr. Mohammed Biden to develop a facet joint replacement system that will preserve to a first order approximation the natural biomechanics of the facet joint when the facet joint has to be removed due to degradation. The current treatment is a fixed rod, which severely limits motion and can cause additional problems to the joints above and below the point of fixation. This invention has been licensed to an outside manufacturer. The spine fixation device, Dr. Brett Friedman conceived an idea for a cervical fixation device to assist in anterior cervical fusion of the spine. It's adjustable where currently they have to pick a particular angle and size. This one would be adjustable so that they can make it patient specific. And this prototype version includes 2 adjustment screws to adjust the angle to fit the patient-specific anatomy. We printed this mandible plate here to show capability. We're duplicating an implant that was purchased outside and used at Mayo Clinic. It is our goal, however, to print patient-specific implants for use at Mayo Clinic. We understand that this will require us to register with the FDA as a medical device manufacturer, and we'll have to receive clearance from the FDA for each family of implants we choose to build. We're about to activate the team for planning of this exciting, audacious project. Are there any questions?